Ostrichsized, Finding Heaven in the Midst of Shell, Chapter 3, Kevin Becker. 2 quotes. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Judy Garland. There is something in every one of you that awaits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have, and if you cannot hear it, you will all your life spend your days on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. Dr. Howard Thurman. Years ago, I met a lady with fibromyalgia and arthritis. She was a nervous wreck. I have heard of white knuckles before, but had never seen white hands. She had so much tension and stress in her life that it not only affected her hands, it even affected her voice. She was unable to yell, scream, or shout. Her nerves were fried. Her throat was restricted. The best way I know to describe her is internally frenzied. 50 plus years into her life, she stated she had never experienced true rest. On the outside looking in, you would say she was very calm, relaxed, and normal, but internally she was a mess. From an early age, she had been manipulated and taken advantage of, and now she was locked in her past, bound in a prison of her pain. I have never met a woman so frazzled, dazed, defeated, and helpless in my life. Without help, she was incapable of relaxing. She hated herself, but was paralyzed to do anything about it. After listening to her talk for 2 hours, I asked if I could pray for her and help her experience peace. She declined my invitation and stated she knew it wouldn't do any good. And yes, she was a saved, faithful church attender. Can you imagine being so stressed and defeated that you would even give up on God? I can. I was almost there. Over and over, I run into broken people that have been pottered by life, shaped and warped into a diseased existence where not even the creator of the universe is allowed to enter or bring hope. Time and time again, I meet people who are struggling, desperately searching for fulfillment, unhappy with their life. Their eyes buzz, constantly on the move, with no sense of peace or rest. They are constantly striving and forcing, struggling and probing, never from a place of rest. There is a tangible anxiety and tension that you can feel. Heaviness oppresses them and their bodies ache from stress. Many times these busybodies are always on the move, hard workers, wealthy, and very successful until their bodies give out. Internal frenzy kills. As I ask questions to bring people into awareness of their heart, I usually ask my favorite question, who are you? I have yet to have someone quickly rattle off an answer. Usually I am met with blank stares. Why? Many don't even know where they are heading or what their destination is. Most folks don't know if they're running from or towards. Many can't access their heart and locate their true identity. As we will discover together, the key to understanding which way to run is being able to answer the following 3 questions. Who are you? What do you want? And what would you do if you had $250 million? These 3 questions might sound overly simplistic, but they are remarkably deep. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to sincerely answer them. No pat answers. It takes an intimate look to diagnose the problem before the doctor can write the correct prescription. Take a moment, reflect, and ponder. Question number 1, who are you? It is easy to hide behind religious jargon. I'm a child of God. Or the simple answer, I'm a student. Or the obvious, the son of Mike and Barbara Jones. I am asking you to think deeper than your Myers-Briggs or Strong interest inventory. Sanguine or choleric, beaver or golden retriever classifications can be helpful, but I am asking for who you are, not what your personality is. Tests are good at pinpointing your current level of thinking and what you are presently feeling, but let's be real. Many people have been so abused and crushed and oppressed that their potential is buried beneath the scope of the current snapshot of what brain hemisphere gives them the most creativity. When you get beyond the easy and push yourself beyond the pain, who are you? Can you answer this question in a unique one-sentence response? If not, by the time you get to the end of the book, I believe you will be able to. I pray it will be the key to unlock the potential buried beneath your pain. I believe you will be able to discover heaven in the midst of the shell as you wrestle with this one question, who are you? Who are you is the key to unlocking your heart while walking into your supernatural destiny. Question number 2, what do you want? What do you want out of life? What mark do you want to leave? What is your unique fingerprint? If you were writing your starring role in a movie, what would you want to do? What do you want? Hint, it's bigger than a new phone or a new pair of jeans. What would you do with $250 million? Question number 3. Recently, I was standing outside of a gas station. I saw a man get out of his car and hobble towards the entrance carrying lottery tickets. As he walked by, he said, "I doubt I'll win anything, but I hope at least for $1." When he came out of the store, I asked, "Did you win anything?" "No," he replied. As he was getting in his car, I inquired, "How much have you spent through the years and how much have you won?" "I've probably spent around $10,000 and only won $10, was his response. We live in a society that wants the big easy. Bring on the Powerball. Maybe with a scratch my destiny can change. How about you? What would you do with $250 million? If I walked over to you and handed you a check, how would you spend it? If your business took off and you began grossing extraordinary money, what would you do with it all? At first, we think it'd be easy to spend that much. I could use a nice house, new cars, go on a cruise, etc. But when you stop and think about it, you might realize you don't need to buy an island or an 8-car garage. When you come to that conclusion, you probably wonder who you would want to give some of it to. That's when it gets interesting. How can you invest your money for the biggest impact? Who would you help? How would you help them? Would you pass out $100 bills to homeless people? Would you give it to a church or a charity, family, orphans in Haiti? Would you invest it in the stock market? This question brings into focus what you're all about. If you didn't have to work, what would you do with your time? How would you find fulfillment and satisfaction in life? Clueless. So, who are you? I would guess that 83% of people asked would give you a pat answer or say they don't know who they are. Ask your friends, ask your teachers, see what your coworkers would say. Don't accept their simple answer. In a nice way, push them, challenge them, wrestle with these questions yourself. How do you describe yourself and where do you see your biggest contribution to the world? What mark do you want to leave showing your grandchildren you were here and you made a difference? What's your dream? It is important to not only answer the questions, but to answer them in the proposed order. If you are like most people, you probably skipped over the first question and tried to answer the second question. We find it easier to answer what we want than who we are, but therein lies the hidden danger. Most advertising execs try to get you to believe that their product is what you need. If you have our deodorant, our dish soap, our jewelry, our car, you'll be happy. As humans, we naturally buy into their sales pitch. If we don't know who we are, we will never know what we want. We might spend lots of money buying the latest widgets and gizmos to satisfy our emptiness, but they'll never make us happy. People who fall for con artists, make poor investment decisions, or play the lottery do it out of emptiness and desperation, never out of fullness. Why is it that we seek the answer to these three questions in the reverse order? I was recently at a Georgia Welcome Center. I saw a young man smoking outside. When he went inside, he noticed the Georgia lottery vending machine and he said, "Well, guess I might as well buy a lottery ticket." Our society encourages the quick fix cigarette to calm our nerves and dangles the carrot of fast money to soothe our lack of direction. Humanity longs for hope and the lottery scratches the itch. Sad. To find purpose, power, and passion, I challenge you to answer these questions in the proposed order. Don't fall prey to societal pressure to play the lottery or buy toys and widgets to make you happy. Instead, wrestle with these questions over the next few weeks or months. Begin with your identity. Who are you? What do you want? And what would you do with $250 million? Ostrachsized. For 37 years, I saw myself as my parents' son. I didn't view myself as an adult capable of making my own decisions. I always did what was nice, expected, and would make the most people happy. I was a compulsive people pleaser who hid behind spiritual-sounding metaphors of helping other people. I was a master chameleon. One of the worst compliments I could receive is to be called Kevin, the nice guy. I've told a few of my friends how messed up in the head I was, and they were all shocked and said, "Oh, I'm too hard on myself. Everyone thinks I was living the dream." I've been a teacher, pastor for most of my life, and I never rocked the boat. I hid behind the fact that I was doing God's duty or just trying to help others. But deep inside, I didn't have a clue who I was or what my contribution to the world would be. When I finally saw how screwed up I was horrified. I was ostrachized to the nth degree. I spent my life hoping money would fall in my lap or bouncing between sports and activities to gain a sense of superiority. Love. Let me ask you another question that will help you identify if you are running from or towards. Do you love yourself? For real. I know it kind of sounds lame, but think about it. Do you love yourself? Another way of looking at this question is by asking it another way. Do you respect yourself? Are you proud of who you have become? Whether or not your parents, boss, or friends are proud of who you are is irrelevant. Right now, I don't care about how many awards you have won or how big your paycheck is. Do you love yourself? Having your children think that you hung the moon is irrelevant. Do you like yourself? Well, someone might say, I'm not perfect, and there are flaws in everyone's life that we don't like, but my response would be, do you want to settle for normal? Just because most people don't like themselves doesn't mean you have to settle for second best. Is it possible to love all of you? Before you can decide what you want to run towards, you will have to know what it is you want out of life. Before you can possibly know what you want out of life, you'll have to wrestle with the issue of who you are and if you love yourself or not. This will help you identify what you have been running from and what you want and desire to run towards. I find most people, and this is sad, have a deep hatred of themselves, and they aren't even aware they feel this way. They might not understand it, but somewhere deep on the inside is a distrust with who they are. They feel like they are trash and not treasure. They fail to see their beauty and their uniqueness. To be honest, they don't respect themselves. Just look around and see the waist size of your friends and look them in the eye. Do their eyes race and reveal anxiety? Or are they deep and calm? Do they look happy? Look at their core. Do you see joy, peace, and confidence? The majority of people I ask this question to respond very quickly with, yeah, of course I love myself, until I push, poke, and prod and discover the painful truth they have hid even from themselves. Though I'm using 83% for the purpose of this book, I have talked to hundreds of folks and have yet to find a person who loves themselves upon the initial conversation. Just a quick sidebar for 83%. In the Bible, Numbers 13 and 14 describe 12 men returning from spying out the promised land. Only 2 were willing to face the challenges head on while not letting fear overwhelm them. Though not a scientific figure, I would wager that 10 out of 12 people today, or 83%, bury their head in the sand as well and allow the pain of life to paralyze them from reaching their potential. For the purposes of this book, we will use 83% as a baseline. My personal experience of visiting with hundreds of folks say the numbers are much higher. Back to the book. Another beloved question, though crass, pierces through the hypocritical masks of self-esteem. Can you dance naked in front of the mirror, singing "I love you" at the top of your lungs while looking yourself in the eye? Love that question. The majority of people that tell me they love and like themselves, when asked this question, buckle and fold like a cheap card table. And it is more than, well, it just isn't my personality to sing and dance naked. No. For many, deep behind the face of acceptance is pain. But buried beneath the pain is potential. As I have traveled and spoken all across the world, the one message I try to convey is you are special. No, I don't mean you're special, that kind of special. I mean the kind of special that is a one-of-a-kind brilliance, unique greatness. As you look at the universe, you will notice the incredible variety. There is not another person on this planet just like you. You are a special creation of infinite worth. Though your friends and family might not emphasize your greatness, please understand there are others out there who believe in you. Your special contribution to the world is priceless. And you will experience true joy when you are who you are called to be. Do you realize the only thing impossible for you to do is to be like somebody else? So why do a lot of your friends walk around with sports jerseys with another person's name on their back? Why do you spend time analyzing what the stars are wearing and how they're fixing their hair? Why do we spend hours learning how to imitate others and living vicariously through our favorite sports team? Trying to be like someone else will only lead to frustration. Being the best you can be will lead to happiness. As Oscar Wilde has said, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Copycat. In high school, I was a pretty good basketball player. I remember spending hours learning how to shoot free throws like Dominique Wilkins. After a few weeks, I would try to shoot like Larry Bird. When that didn't work, I began imitating Michael Jordan. I tried jumping like Spud Webb, walking pigeon-toed like Dominique, and shooting hook shots like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I even learned how to pass like Magic Johnson and box out and rebound like the Worm. Had I spent the same amount of time investing in myself, deciding who I was, I might not have suffered 20 plus years of pain that followed my high school experience. Please hear this. It isn't cool to copy somebody else. There is no one like you. Don't wear a Kobe or LeBron jersey or get the Jennifer Aniston haircut. You are you. You are not Kim Kardashian or George Clooney. Tiger skin. I love to tell the story about the donkey roaming around in the jungle. Once upon a time, there was an incredible donkey, a fine specimen, but he didn't know it. You see, all the other animals made fun of him. They said his tail was too short, his ears too big, his fur the wrong color, and his feet were too smelly. To them, he walked funny and couldn't laugh like the in crowd. All the animals made fun of him, and he dreaded seeing them at the water hole. After months of ridicule, one day he walked around a big bush and saw a tiger. Oh, great. Wonder what he will make fun of today. I probably deserve it. Oh, well, can't ignore him forever. Might as well get it over with, he moaned. But as he approached, he noticed the tiger wasn't moving. When he came upon the tiger, he realized it was just a tiger's skin and not a real tiger. Ah! The donkey felt relief and quickly had an idea. After carefully covering himself with the tiger skin, he made his way back toward the center of the jungle. As he lumbered down the path, he saw a monkey. His insides began to constrict, but then he realized he had placed the tiger suit on himself. As he got closer, he noticed the monkey move out of his way and bow in respect. Whoa, this feels good, he thought to himself. Now he had another idea. Roar! The monkey jumped. Ha ha ha! He laughed as the donkey as he strolled away with his head held high. He walked a little further down the trail and saw a parrot. He expected the same taunting remarks, but instead was greeted with words of respect. Sweet! This feels awesome, said the donkey. Roar! And the feathers flew as the parrot headed for higher branches. Ha ha ha! Snickered the donkey. As he came to the watering hole at the center of the jungle, he noticed his old arch nemesis, the laughing hyena. Oh yeah, said the donkey, time for revenge. While the hyena was entertaining all the animals, describing his latest prank he pulled on the sloth, the donkey slipped up behind him and let out a loud roar. The hyena jumped and wet himself as he scrambled for cover. The donkey was so proud of himself that he let out another loud chuckle. Ha 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 ha, hee-haw. Yep, you guessed it. Everyone at the watering hole heard it too. In verse on. In verse on, a powerful distinction. Like the donkey, you might feel like a loser, like nobody cares. You might stare in the mirror and see huge zits and freckles and crooked teeth. Others may look at you and see a beautiful, strong, bold person created in the image of God. A prince or a princess of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. If you're blessed enough to have positive voices speaking truth and confidence into you, rejoice. However, the best your parents, a powerful pastor, or a caring adult can do is place value on you. They cannot put value in you. On the flip side, if you did not have a safe, caring adult speaking positive words to you, there is good news. The worst they can do is place those words on you and not in you. The difference between high and low self-worth are the messages you allow in to your brain. You can be your own worst enemy and also your very best friend. Who do you believe you are? Are you strong, confident, handsome? Are you beautiful, special, and wonderfully made? You and you alone control the messages you believe. What is the message you believe? The messages on the inside always trump the messages on the outside. Is there anyone that can deposit a message in you? It is true. Many people are stunted or ostrich-sized by abusive parents and adults. It is true that some people have more than a few strikes against them. But when you're old enough to read and comprehend this, you're old enough to change those messages. Deception. The great deceiver is no match for truth. We could sit around for years and recount all the wrongs done to us, and we'd be justified in doing so. The problem is, however, that focusing on the past won't change your future. Nothing is gained by living in regret. However, analyzing where you came from will allow you to change your destination. Most messages we allow in are deception and lies. But many of us attribute truth to the pain and validate its existence through ignorance of the blind spot. So here's a question. How can you replace the lie with truth if you don't know what lie owns you? And another question, is it a good idea to analyze our past to recognize the deceptive darkness we're bound in? I heard Bill Johnson say in a sermon something to the effect of, we can't afford to look at our past unless we look at it through the lens of the blood of Jesus. If we do, we open ourselves up to the spirit of deception because our past has been purchased and no longer exists. Now things are getting interesting. Buckle up. Here is a deep question. It looks simple, but the ramifications of your answer can transform nations. Who is your biggest enemy? And a few more. Who or what is your biggest critic? Is it you, your parents, the devil, your past? What shuts you down? While I will develop this thought more in future chapters, I want to introduce the concept now. For every mile of road, how many miles of ditches are there? There are two extremes the pendulum can swing. One side says, the devil made me do it. The other side casts blame on the person. It's all my fault. Or is it all the devil's fault? The devil is a master deceiver. He manipulates in a way where we feel like losers and God gets the blame. How does truth and deception impact your past? How does the father of lies control and manipulate us? How is it that we feel like trash? And is there anything we can do about it? I would guess 83% of humans elevate their pain beyond God's ability to deliver and redeem. Most of us see our circumstances as monumental and potential for change as minimal. To be brutally honest, it's called idolatry. Most Americans don't have a shrine in their home or sit before a golden Buddha. We just worship at the feet of failure. We feel trapped and stuck, like no one cares or notices. Are you worth being noticed? Are you valuable enough to be heard? Does your uniqueness matter? The bottom line is that out of the 7 billion people in the world, there is no one like you. You are a unique, amazing, one-of-a-kind creation. Even if others have treated you like trash, you are treasure. For some, their treasure still lies in their blind spots, masked deep within the shell. Are you ready to dig and discover? Everyone hears a committee of little voices that are negative and critical. These voices tell you that you're worthless. They strike fear in the heart of the brave and make the knees knock of the fiercest warrior. I once heard them termed the itty-bitty pity committee. That little committee has an off button. They can be told to shut up. Although it feels like it, they are not in control. Those negative voices telling you can't, do not have power over you unless you give them power over you. You can fire that committee. And the best way to deal with them is to drown them. More on that later. Many undeserving people walk around with bullies telling them they are weak and powerless. They do not have to control you. You have a delete button, and you can cancel their influence over you. While they might place their words on you, you don't have to allow their influence in you. But how can you shut them up? Have you ever seen a Chihuahua take on a much bigger dog, run it away from the food dish? What messages do you think the Chihuahua allowed in? I was watching some funny videos online and I saw a cat tree a bear. Do you think the cat had identity issues? You are amazing. You are wonderful. You are special. You are great. You are powerful. You are unique. You are priceless. You have more power than you realize. I recently ran across a quote from C.S. Lewis that said, "We are far too easily pleased." I find the idea that being far too easily pleased to be extremely accurate. We think Xbox and iPhones are amazing. We become enamored with the latest car or the newest app. We dream far too little and set goals way too small. What are you doing this weekend? I don't know, maybe get drunk, watch a movie, eat some nachos. Really? That's exciting? Playing golf or watching movies is the best you can come up with? I'll never forget walking around where all the cool teenagers would cruise up and down the street. A car passed and there was a hot girl hanging out the passenger window with barf all over her face and running down the side of the car. Wee-hee! Looks like fun. Come on. Give yourself permission to dream. Discover happiness. Set your goals on bigger things than smoking weed or reaching the next level of your video game. God is honored when you dream big. He created you and He is thrilled when you are proud of who you are. The chickened eagle. Though oft told, I love this story. Many years ago, there was a great big mountain. On top of this mountain was a great big tree. And sitting on top of the tree was an eagle's nest. And sitting in the eagle's nest were 3 eagle eggs. One day a huge storm hit. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder boomed across the valley. And the ground began to shake. In the midst of the storm, as the tree swayed back and forth, one of the eagle eggs fell from the nest. It rolled down the valley, down into the farm, and ended up in the chicken coop. One of the chickens looked at it, raised her foot, and tried to step on it. "Wait!" cried another chicken. "Don't step on it." And a third chicken decided to sit on it. After a few weeks, what do you suppose hatched from under that chicken? An eagle. The eagle looked around and saw his chicken brothers and his chicken sisters and decided, I guess I'm a chicken. About 3 months or so went by, and the eagle had learned to be a good chicken. He learned to keep his head down, pecking away in the dirt. Then, sometime later, a huge shadow whoosh, swept across the farm. All the chickens looked up, and there, soaring high above the dirt, was the eagle's sister. The eagle's heart began to beat a little bit faster, and he heard a voice whisper inside his head, "Stretch out your wings and fly." But the eagle made a poor decision. The eagle turned to his chicken brothers and sisters and said, "Hey guys, what do you think? I want to do that. I want to fly." And all the chickens gathered around and they said, "Buck, buck, 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 you're not an eagle, you're a chicken." Dejected, with shrugged shoulders and a tear rolling down his cheek, the eagle lowered his eyes and began to peck in the dirt. Well, a few weeks later, the eagle was with his chicken brothers and chicken sisters in the barnyard. His head was down and he was hot, tired, and depressed. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, went another great shadow. The eagle raised his eyes, and there, high above the monotony of the barnyard, was the eagle's sister. Once again, his heart began to beat a little bit faster. He heard the same voice say, "Stretch out your wings and fly." And once again, he turned to his chicken brothers and sisters and said, "Hey guys, what do you think? I want to do that. I want to fly." Once again, all the chickens gathered around. They ganged up on him in unison and shouted, "Buck, buck, 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 you're not an eagle, you're a chicken." Hey, do you remember those books where you got to choose the ending? If you wanted the spy novel to take a certain direction, you could turn to page 55. If you wanted it to have another ending, you could turn to page 73, etc. Well, this is the part of the story where you get to decide the ending. And the eagle, ending number 1, turned towards the coop with a tear welling up in his eye and the weight of the world on his shoulders, too paralyzed to move. He slowly dragged his worn-down body into the cage, shrugged his shoulders, let out a sigh, and died. Or, ending number 2. And the eagle looked deep within, listened to the voice carried by the wind, owned his eagleness, stretched out his wings, and took off into the sky. Goodbye, chickens! Never will you have control over me again. Reader, you're not a chicken, you're an eagle. Everywhere I travel, this is the message I love to bring to people. You're special, you're loved, you are one of a kind. Sure, you might have been born amongst the chickens, but you don't have to live there the rest of your life. Listen to the voice, to God's call on your life. Get born again. Stretch out your wings. Believe. Lift up your eyes. Get a new perspective. Understand your identity. You can soar. I believe in you. For real. Now, let's get practical. How can you bring a beautiful eagle into the heart of a chicken or an ostrich? If you came from a dysfunctional family and you never experienced love, or someone who believed in you, how can you really soar? Where does love come from? How can you receive love if you're in a terrible marriage? How do you forgive yourself? Can you truly be reborn? Is there such a thing as a divine mulligan? Here's the deal. Most of us spend every waking moment looking for love. We eat to feel pleasure, exercise to become lovable, watch TV or movies to see the happily ever after. Most of us feel so unworthy of being loved, and yet we long for it desperately. Some mistake lust for love and sleep around longing for a spark just to feel alive. How many mistakes have been made in the pursuit of love? How many hearts have been crushed while seeking their deepest desire? How do you find love? How do you find someone who pursues your heart? How do you unlock your potential buried beneath your pain? The answer begins to unfold as we look at the 3 questions. But while we look for answer, there's always plenty of people who will give you their 2 cents worth. Many folks want to hand you a rope. Study guide from chapter 3. I met a woman who lives in poverty. She called me and invited me to her house because her anger and rage were causing her to make poor decisions. She was out of control and she knew it. When I arrived, I asked her what was going on. In her response, she told me about the pain she feels, how she just explodes at the smallest thing, and how her life feels like it's out of control. I asked her if she knew what was at the core of her issues, and her response was, "Everyone is running over me and controlling me. I don't know who I am." Bingo! At the core of our issue is a lack of insight into who we really are. When we don't have a strong sense of who we are, we won't know what we want. Take some time and see if you can identify who you are in a 1 or 2 sentence response. This will not be easy. Don't use the obvious responses like mother, father, son, athlete, Christian, engineer. Push yourself and get to the core. Who are you? What do you want? What would you do with $250 million? What negative messages were placed on you that you have allowed to remain in you? And finally, write 5 things that you love about yourself. Step 1, identify your shell. Step 2, identify what you are running from. And step 3, identify who you are.